All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into previewing both of the Monday night matchups, Jaguars and the Bills, Commanders and the Bengals. So let's get into that. So for the Bills and the Jags, we'll start off with them. The Bills coming off of that big Thursday night football win last week against the Dolphins. For the Jaguars, they dropped another game at home, losing to the Browns 18-13. And yeah, the Jaguars don't look great. Offensively, they really can't seem to get anything going. Trevor Lawrence continues to struggle. And, going into this game, the Bills are at home. It looks like the odds are stacked up against the Jags in this game. Now, I will say I did take the Jags with the points here. I don't feel great about it, but I just feel like the Jaguars are going to play desperate tonight and they're going to be competitive. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills beat the brakes off of them, as you would say. Right now, so the line opened up at 3.5. Now it's at 5.5. That's why I took the points. 5.5 is a lot, and I feel like the Jags are going to be desperate in this game, and they're going to try to, I think they're going to look a little bit better than we have seen, but we'll see. Maybe I'm a little bit optimistic because when you look at, the rankings for these teams, they're both not, when it comes to throwing the football, not throwing for a ton of yards. The Bills are 28th in passing yards per game. Josh Allen really didn't have to do that much last week. James Cook had a big game. The Jags are 26th. Then rushing yards, they're middle of the pack. James Cook had a big game last week. I expect him to produce again tonight. The Bills are 15th in rushing yards per game. The Jags are 13th. So I think that's something that they're going to have to lean on is, get Travis Etienne going. Then and then in terms of points per game, the Bills are second and the Jags are 29th. So when you look at that, again, doesn't look well. It doesn't bode well for the Jags. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Bills are 10th against the pass, giving up an average of 193.5 passing yards per game through these, first couple weeks. Jaguars are 30th, giving up an average of 262. And then against the run, the Jags actually do a good job at stopping the run. They're top 10, giving up an average of 103 yards per game in terms of rushing yards. And the Bills, their defense is 22nd at stopping the run. So something to keep an eye on tonight. Travis Etienne, lean upon him. And then for both defenses, both are 9th. They're giving up an average of 19 points per game. I mean, the Jags, they had a 10-point lead against the Dolphins, and they blew that. They could be 1-1 right now. And then they did only give up 18 points. I mean, one of them was a safety against the Browns. So, I mean, the defense, hasn't been terrible for the Jags. It's the offense that really has to get it going. For the Bills, their defense has been playing well, but, Josh Allen in that offense, these first 2 weeks. I mean, in week 1, it was Josh Allen playing hero ball. Last week, it was James Cook doing his thing. So, I expect more of that. But for the Jags, leaning on Travis Etienne, get some of your other receivers going, get Christian Kirk more involved, get your rookie Brian Thomas Jr. involved because he had a big catch last week against the Browns. It's going to be an interesting game. This game is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I mean, I expect the Bills to win this game. I did take the Jags with the points. Right now, the over-under is 46.5. I mean, I take the over in this game. I do, like I said, I do think the Jags are going to look different. I think they're going to be competitive in this game, like I said, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because you're playing in Buffalo, and that crowd is going to be really into it. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to say the over hits. I'm going to say it's a high-scoring game, but I'm going to say the Bills win 31-27. I'm going to say that's the final score. Like I said, I think this Jags offense is going to get it going here because they have to. You have to. You're 0-2 right now. You're on the doorsteps of going 0-3. And then you take on the Texans, who are coming off of a blowout loss. So, and that's a home game for them. So you really got to – this is a game where you got to win this game. You got to rise to the occasion, and let's see if they're able to do it. And really, this is on Trevor Lawrence too. You know, you got to get it going in this game because he has not looked great these first couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the offensive line for the Jags, I mean, that's been a problem. You know, the Bills, their defenses looked solid these first two games. So we'll see what happens here. But I got the Bills winning, but I got the Jags covering. So we'll see how that goes. And then the next game that we have is the Commanders and the Bengals. So the Bengals coming off of that tough loss against the Chiefs last week, 26-25. The Commanders winning on 7 field goals against a team that scored 3 touchdowns. Now that team did end up winning. The Giants ended up winning. So right now, I could be happy. But they're going up against the Bengals. The Commanders' defense is not great. I mean, the Bengals' defense as well. It's not. They're going to be missing some guys in this game. I mean, I like the Bengals to win this game, pick up their first victory. Jaden Daniels, it's kind of been a mixed bag for him so far. He still has no passing touchdowns yet, but he has run the ball effectively so far. Looking at the league rankings for these teams, so the Bengals are 16th in passing yards per game. The Commanders are 19th. However, when you look at the rushing yards per game, I mean, the Commanders, they're a running team. 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards per game, 176.5. And the Bengals are only averaging 72 yards rushing per game. They're 31st. And then points per game, Bengals are 22nd. Commanders are 15th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Bengals are actually giving up an average of 136 passing yards per game, which is first, and the Commanders are 20th. So I think this is a game, you're getting T. Higgins back. I think this is a game where Joe Burrow in that offense is going to ball out. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase get it going this week, especially Jamar Chase with now T. Higgins back. The Commanders and the Bengals, when it comes to rushing yards, the Bengals are 29th, giving up an average of 159.5 rushing yards per game. The Commanders are 16th, giving up 120.5. So we'll see. But I think the Bengals, they're going to be airing it out a lot in this game. So, yeah. And then for points allowed, as my camera decides to do this to me. For points allowed, the Bengals defense is giving up an average of 21 points per game, which is 18th, and the Commanders are giving up an average of 27.5 points, which is 29th. But that was because, I mean, the first week against the Bucks, Bucks put up 37 points against them. So, and then with the Giants, they only scored 18 points despite, they didn't have a kicker. They would have got in the 20s, but they didn't have a kicker. So, but yeah, I expect the Bengals to get it going here offensively. I mean, Joe Burrow has not looked bad. I mean, he played a little bit better last week. I expect him to go off with that offense. And, the Commanders, they don't have, the offensive line I don't think is great. But, Jane Daniels will make plays. He's going to have to, throw the ball if they're trailing by a couple of scores. I mean, if they fall down by a couple of scores in this game and the defense isn't getting any stops, then yeah, it's going to be a long night for them. But, if they can keep it close, Brian Robinson Jr. has done well running the football this year. Jane Daniels, the elusiveness with him. I mean, he's making plays with his legs, but you want to see him, throwing the ball more through the air, get Terry McLaurin and these pass catchers involved. But yeah, I mean, if you get into a game where your defense isn't getting any stops and the Bengals are having their way with your defense, yeah, it could be a long night. So I like the Bengals in this game. They're a 7.5-point favorite. I'm gonna say they win 31-17. I think that's my my prediction there. But let me know what you guys think about that. How do you see this game playing out? How do you see Jaguars-Bills playing out? Let me know in the comments. So, yeah, and this will get us concluded for Week 3. But like I said, We'll go through the rest of the games throughout the week. There was a handful that we didn't get to today. We'll talk about the Eagles game, Eagles Saints. That'll probably be the game that we talk about in halfway through the show, because I want to recap these games tomorrow, and then we'll get to some of the other games that we didn't get to today. And it was another wacky week in the NFL. Just when you think you might have a grasp on what's going on, you don't. So, yeah, I wanted to get into actually the Panthers game, Panthers-Raiders as well, because the Panthers won a football game. So we're going to get into that one tomorrow. Like I said, we'll get into Eagles-Saints. And there's a couple of candidates for the final game, the final segment we'll talk about tomorrow. But, yeah, that's basically how tomorrow's going to be. So you kind of got a little preview as to what we're going to cover. But, yeah, another interesting week. We got 2 more games tonight, so let's see what it brings us. Right now, when it comes to fantasy, I'm definitely going to win one league, but I might go 1-4 this week. So, in one of my leagues, in my family league, I'm up by 11. I have the Bengals defense and Evan McPherson, but my cousin has Jamar Chase and Brian Robinson Jr. So that doesn't look good for me right now. And then in my main league, I am up by 7. I have Jamar Chase, but my friend has the Bills defense, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels. So that doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for me. This is the league I'm ravaged by injuries. No Kittle, no Debo, and no Puka Nacua. I'm hoping Nick Chubb comes back soon, but I'm not counting on it. I think he's gonna, because they're saying he's gonna come back middle of the season. I hope that's not the case. I hope he's back sooner than that, but we'll see. Yeah, that league's not looking great right now with all my injuries. Brock Purdy actually did really well for me, got 25 points, but yeah, I made some big mistakes in my draft. Not taking Saquon Barkley is really hurting me right now, because he just continues to play well for them, which I knew, and I drafted him in a couple other leagues, but for some reason I was like, I'm going to be a little bit different here. So, but I probably am not going to win that league, but I will say Jamar Chase is playing against a bad defense. T. Higgins is back, so maybe this is a game where he really gets it going, and he has one of those games where he drops like 40 points and has 3 touchdowns like he did last year against the Cardinals, and he had the 3-touchdown game against the Chiefs as well a few years ago. So can't believe I'm saying a few years ago already. But yeah, hopefully he gets it going. So, but yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. My camera continues to act up, so we're just gonna wrap it up here. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.